Hi everyone, welcome to day 19 of SQL Fundamentals. Today we are going to talk about cursor. So what is cursor? A cursor is a SQL Server object that help you to retrieve, manipulate and navigate through results set row by row, right? So when we were talking about loops in our earlier class, I mentioned like we have something called cursor which is similar to loops which will be covered separately. In today's session is purely to talk about cursor and clarify what is the purpose of cursor. So this is a row by row operation object which help you to take each row into memory, do the manipulation and go into next row. So how many times this is a loop, right? So how many times does this loop runs? How many of record you have in your query? Okay. So there are different types of cursors like static cursor that work based on a snapshot of data. That means like when you write select employee ID from employees table and you put it in a cursor, even if there is an additional employee comes in or any changes happens, that will not be considered in your loop, because however you are running a query in this this place, there might be someone else making changes to the same table on the other end, right? So that will not be affected if you are using static cursor. Dynamic cursor reflect the changes, and forward cursor means the cursor will only move forward, you will not be able to fetch the previous row and things like that. So these are not key, like this you have to understand like different types of cursors are there. Like tomorrow if you have a requirement to reflect the changes and use this looping, you might be using dynamic cursor, right? So now today I'm going to talk about very basic static cursor as an example. We'll go into the query window and we'll experience how cursor work, where this can be used. So I have already a pre-written SQL query which is connected to our favorite DemoDB. So what I am doing, I am by like declaring two variables, employee ID and employee name. I'm using our same employees table which we have created earlier. So I have around 500 records in this. What a cursor requires. Cursor has a standard set of commands to be executed to complete a cursor. It has a structure, I can say. First you need to declare, then you need to open the cursor, then fetch record, then rest of this should be on a loop, then you need to close the cursor, deallocate. Okay, so when you declare something, so you are allocating a memory for that variable, right? Here you declare these two variables and you have used this like you have allocated memory for these two variables. So what I am doing, first I am declaring a cursor. The cursor name is employee cursor, and I am saying that okay, this cursor should contain employee ID and employee name from employees. This is going to get me like all the find records. So in the interest of time, I'll say I only need where employee ID less than 10. So here what you have to learn from this is like you can write any select queries, you can use views or anything which returns columns, right? And you can mention the columns or star also work, but there is a next step where you need to read these values into a variable. That time you should be able to map that correctly. Okay, now I said okay, I need less than, whoever is the employee ID less than 10 should be stored in this cursor. The next step, I am opening that cursor. So here I just declared, now I have initiated, I opened the cursor, that means that connection is opened with this cursor. Then fetch next from employee cursor into this employee ID and employee name. So what is this fetch next from, right? So what employee cursor consists? Employee cursor consists the 10 record which you have seen with column employee ID and employee name, right? This is what employee cursor contain, right? from 1 to 9. Now I told, okay, open this and read the first row and store it into employee ID and employee name. So this is going to contain the very first value. I'm just printing the first value. Okay, I'm not printing, I'm selecting so that like you will be able to see. So I'm reading the first value from my temporary data set and storing into variable called employee ID and employee name. Okay, so hope this is clear until here. It read it. Then I initiated a while loop because I need to read 10 records, right, in this case. So I need to keep running this query 10 times. So first I have taken the first employee ID and first employee name and stored it, and I need to take the second one for my operation. So I need to start a loop. So this loop using a condition called fetch status. So what is fetch status? It is, okay, you read your first record. So what is the status? It will have different status called 0, -1 and all these things that refine, okay, did I get a record or not? So fetch status means there is a value. Okay, there is a value which we read that exists or not. So in our case, yes, there is a value. So it went into loop and it started printing that value. Okay, here what I have selected, right? So the same value they are printing here in first statement. Okay, first statement, and then on the next line I am doing the next fetch next from employee cursor into employee ID and employee name. So what happens here? Here I read the first row, printed it, then in the loop I am fetching next. So I am going to the next row. So here it's the same command, fetch next from. So I'm moving to second record. Then this loop goes back and check what is the fetch status. Okay, it is 0. Great. So then it comes, print that second row, come here, take the third row. The loop continues until you print the 9th row. Then it checks what is the fetch status. So we can do one more interesting thing here. I'm going to select fetch status so that like let us see what is the fetch status in every loop and how this is getting exited, so that like we can learn what is the value in the fetch status. So once after this fetching is completed, when the fetch status changes, it exits the loop. So you have done two things, right? You open that cursor and you are responsible to close it, close the cursor, and you allocated, right? When you declare something, you allocated. So you are deallocating the cursor. So why is it really required? I don't say it's not mandatory, but this is a good practice because when you allocate, you have actually stored that big chunk of data into memory. The good practice is to deallocate it so that like the memory will be released. So now let us run this code and understand this. Okay. So it printed so many information. So let us see what are these commands. So the first print is here, right? Print employee ID. This is the employee ID 1 and first name is printed. It print until the 9th record. That is what we selected. Okay. So let us see. So we did few things. First we had a select on the top that returns the first value. Agree. The first value was employee ID 1 and employee name we read. So what was there in the variable? It has printed here. And we also had a select statement inside the loop that fetch status is being printed. You can see fetch status 0 is keep printing here, and when you reach the last record, it is fetch status -1. So that is what our learning. Like if there is no values being returned, fetch status is going to be -1. Okay, so that -1 will be checked here, and the condition is false, and it exits from the loop. Then it comes and reallocate. So here in my example, I was just like combining and printing these variables, right? So this may not. So when a practical example, if you need to like take a information of a data and do some manipulation processing, which may not be able to accomplish through a single query. See, we have lot of flexibility called CT, and you can use other joins, union. All these functions are already exist. So all that is a set operation that help you to do one set of query, right? Here, if you wanted to fetch an information from a data and you wanted to make use of that, do some calculations or do some manipulations and fetch that. So this is where the cursor would be used. And with that, before I conclude my video, I just wanted to share few information. We have completed a total 20 videos with this 20 days of series with day 19. This is day 19, but we had day 0. So we have 20 days of videos completed today. And before we deep dive into advanced optimization and all this cover, I'm planning to have a real practical video session that I'm going to take a video, sorry, I'm going to take a requirement as a document, how it comes from users, then divided that into actual design. That means we'll go to like conceptual, not in so detail, but how a tables are being defined, how that convert into data types. Then we will store some data. From that we will have business logic to be implemented. So that business logic will be implemented based on stored procedure. We'll also make use of cursor if that requirement meet that. So I'll try to have this comprehensive video which is going to be little lengthier, but that video will help you to implement most of the topic what we covered in last 19 days with an example and a real-time experience. So this would be our next video. With that, signing off. And if you like the video, feel free to like, share, subscribe, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, need any support in learning and exploring these data engineering tools and technologies. Thank you.